a meal of fish and chips or garlic prawns. But whereas the other types of food that we eat are grown for that sole purpose, much of the seafood that we eat is still taken directly from our oceans and rivers. In stories, I'll be in Tasmania investigating a case of seafood poisoning, and Sam will be spending a night on a prawn trawler. But first, we'll take a look at the least most feared of all the fishes, the sharks.
It's hard to believe that some creatures are very much at ease in a habitat where we human beings are very much out of our depths with. But for one specialised group of fish, these watery depths are very much their home. And that group of fish is the sharks. Known from the fossil records of 400 million years ago, they have changed very little since prehistoric times. Their skeleton, including their jaws, is made entirely of cartilage, unlike other true bony fishes. The shark has many incredible features that put it into the category of one of the world's smartest creatures. Nearly all sharks have a greater proportion of brain weight to body weight than other fish. This ratio exceeds that of many birds and even some mammals. Experiments show that sharks are capable of trained behaviour and can easily learn to push levers to obtain food. A shark's mouth and nostrils constantly pass water to two large nasal sacs. These are lined with cells of incredible sensitivity and can help detect a trace of fish flesh as weak as 1 part in 10 billion parts of seawater. Special pores in the skin of the snout, just in front of the mouth, lead to a network of cells and nerves that are sensitive to electric fields. This helps to locate schools of fish and enables bottom-feeding sharks to find prey buried in the sand. Shark skin is entirely covered with small conical structures called denticles, giving it a very rough, sandpapery feel. Enlarged denticles inside the mouth form the shark's teeth. The teeth are arranged in several rows, usually 5, with the front teeth upright and others lying horizontal, ready to replace the front teeth when lost. And it's these teeth and the shark's effectiveness as a hunter that have led at times to the animal's wholesale slaughter by human beings. Drift netting in deep water is responsible for the needless slaughter of thousands of these intelligent creatures every year. Sharks netted for food are thrown back into the ocean to die in agony after having their fins cruelly cut off. Our ignorance may one day lead to the extinction of several shark species. Mark Smith, curator of fish at SeaWorld, is working on a shark tagging program that will hopefully help the shark's survival.
Because the shark has about a 12-month gestation period, it takes about 7 years for them to become mature. It's very difficult to say that the shark could have recovered from the really wholesale slaughter that happened in the 50s and the 60s, because these sharks were hunted quite extensively during that period of time, and really 10 years isn't nearly long enough for them to recover. So what we intend to do is we intend to tag some of the populations of grey nurse sharks on the east coast of Australia, and by so doing we will then monitor the numbers and their migration along the east coast and hopefully get a little bit more of a handle on the behaviour of the sharks and their numbers to see if in fact they have been breeding and the numbers have been increasing.
The plastic tags have a number which can be cross-referenced with previous recordings to give information on where and when the shark was tagged, its size and its general condition. This information will help educate and show that our fear of sharks may be unfounded.
This idea that they should be slaughtered or should be removed from the canals, or for instance great whites should be removed from southern waters, really is ridiculous, because very, very few attacks really do occur, and man certainly has no right to actually eradicate a certain species of animal from the surface of the earth.
Although scientific research and understanding of shark behaviour is still in its infancy, already there is evidence suggesting that the shark is no longer the mindless, primitive killing machines once thought of. In fact, they are highly intelligent creatures, well adapted to this watery habitat. And there's only one other thing I can say.
Sharks are extremely well adapted for hunting and protecting themselves. They use their senses of touch, hearing, taste, smell and sight. As well as all these senses, they have another remarkable ability, the ability to detect electrical impulses in the water. This comes in very handy if the animal that the shark is hunting gives out any electrical impulses which the shark can follow. The electrical impulses are detected through the shark's nose or snout. There are these tiny little pores or holes in the shark's skin. And this sensing ability may also help the shark to keep its balance in the water as well as navigate long distances. A shark's skin is covered in tiny little scales known as denticles, and it's possible that these denticles help the shark to swim more silently, enabling them to creep up on their prey. After the break, Sam takes a journey on a prawn trawler.
Fishing is a sport enjoyed by a lot of people, but even if you don't like fishing, you might like to hear some of the stories that are told on the return from a fishing trip, like having caught nothing but a cold, or the fantasies told about the one that got away. It was that big. No, it was much bigger, it was that big. But in commercial fishing, where nets are used, unfortunately not a lot gets away, and usually a lot more than necessary comes up with the catch. If there's one thing that represents the Gulf of Carpentaria more than anything else, it's the fishing boat. The Gulf is fabulously rich in sea life, home to immense schools of prawns that were only discovered in the 1960s. At peak times, there'll be more than 100 fishing boats scattered around the Gulf searching for banana, tiger, endeavour, white and half a dozen other varieties of prawn. At the time we visited, the banana season had just finished and the trawlers were working through the night chasing the best quality catch of all, the tiger prawn.
See all these dots, these red dots? Yeah. Every one of those is a bait. Everyone's after my tiger prawn, see?
On a modern boat like the Bralder, skipper Bruce Davies commands an operation that is just about as sophisticated as trawling can get.
Sometimes you've got to wonder whether you can justify the outlay of these money. Some of these radars, you can pay $15,000, $20,000 for a good radar there these days.
But despite the gadgetry, when it comes right down to catching the elusive prawns, technology has come up with nothing better than the method of try it and see. A small net called a try-shot is hauled in to see what's down there. It's been over the side for about 20 minutes and is a good indication of what marine life is in the area. This net had dragged close to a reef as a few reef fish had been hauled up. The next thing to do, though, is to count the number of prawns in the try-shot. There were a couple of endeavour prawns, as well as a number of tiger, just what they were after. When the count is good, they know where to concentrate and can usually count on a peak haul when they pull in the large nets and empty them onto the sorting deck. As you can see, the variety of sea life that comes up in the nets is incredible. The catch may include anything from sea snakes to stingrays.
We'll get him straight back over the side again because we don't like to kill them or any other big monsters that we get these days. Try and get them back over the side.
Lucky for the stingray and sea snakes that the trawler men have a soft spot for them. But generally, if it's not a prawn, they don't want it. And most of the fish have to wait until after the sorting to be dumped back over the side. Nobody is quite sure how many of the fish thrown back into the sea survive. But you can see the brown boobies that follow the boats enjoy a lot of the rejected catch. Meanwhile, down below, the catch is sorted on a conveyor belt that seems to move faster and faster. They're graded according to size, species and condition. It's all over in a remarkably short time, and the prawns, now product, are packaged for export and snap frozen in the Bralder's hold.
Used to just put them in a box and sell them there once, and that was it. The kingies would go in with the tigers, and the endeavours would be no grading or anything like that, whereas now we've really got to grade it, make sure that it's a hard shell and that it's a correct grade.
The Gulf is Australia's richest prawning ground, and the fishermen admit they went crazy when it was recognised just how many prawns could be pulled out of the water. In the old days, they had nets out 24 hours a day, and a combination of hard work and good luck made more than a few fortunes. But in the space of just 2 decades, they almost killed off their livelihood. In the last 5 years, though, restrictions on fishing have been enforced and the catches are beginning to stabilise. Instead of being able to fish all year round, they can now only enjoy a season that runs 6.5 months. And there's no more going at it 24 hours a day. They're now limited to just 14 hours per day and can use only 2 nets instead of the previous 4. The Bralda can carry up to $500,000 worth of prawns in her hold, and the Gulf can still support up to 100 trawlers at a time. While the fishermen have faced up to the question of limiting the catch of the prawns, the damage done to other forms of sea life is one of the controversial questions that never seem to have a definite answer. Apart from the huge amount of unwanted sea life that goes back over the side, there's the question of what damage is done to the ocean bed by the weighted nets that are dragged over it. In an area that coral may be, the effects can be dramatic, and it's not yet understood just how much damage is being done to the seabed that is not visible to those on deck. It seems definite in the future that certain varieties of fish and prawns and other seafood will have to be farmed using aquaculture. And if that will relieve the pressure on life in the oceans, then it will be a very positive thing for all concerned, the marine life itself and those who love eating it. After the break, we go to Tasmania to investigate a case of seafood poisoning.